What's up guys, Sam Wild here from Guitar Legend. Today we're going to be talking about practice routines, how much you should practice, how long you should spend practicing, and how you should break up your practice routines. Alright guys, let's start with the obvious question, which is how many hours per day should you practice? Now the obvious answer would be practice as much as you can and you will improve as fast as possible, right? But it's not quite as simple as that. That's a good general rule of thumb, obviously, but there's two things I want you to think about here, okay? The first one is, if you play too much, you can actually hurt yourself. And this happened to me. I got an RSI in my forearm, right? Sort of my wrist, if anything. It was all the tendons that linked to my fingers, all right? I was using them too much every day. They weren't recovering well enough. Partly because I probably wasn't eating as well back then. Partly because I didn't know how long I should take gaps for. So sometimes I played for 3 hours non-stop, right? In fact, I say sometimes, every day I was doing that. And you can hurt yourself. Okay, just this constant strain on these muscles, they're not used to being worked for that long. You have to take regular breaks, all right? Every hour have a 15-minute break at least, you know. Maybe try and cap your maximum practice time in a day to 5 hours. If you really have that much time, try not to go beyond that, all right? Try and stay out of this strenuous position as much as you can. Anytime where you can change it to this is gonna be better for you, all right? Also, after your practice sessions, you can stretch out, right? You can do some wrist stretches. So that keeps away the RSIs. Now, the second thing, it's all very well me saying play as much as possible, play as much as possible, but back then, when I first started learning, I wasn't really practicing the right things, and I wasn't practicing efficiently. For example, if I was playing the major scale, a really simple basic thing, I would spend far too long playing the scale top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom. It's a little bit like learning to throw a tennis ball, say 1 meter in the air, and catching it, right? You might want to practice that for a day or two, but once you can do it, you don't have to keep doing it, right? It's the same with guitar. If you've memorized your major scale shape, which you could do in a few days, then you don't need to keep playing it top to bottom because you will never do that in a musical situation, right? Very rarely will you have to do that. So the best thing to do is memorize the shape and then you figure out different ways of playing the scale that are more beneficial, right? Breaking up into intervals, coming up with the melody ideas with it, playing harmonically and melodically, right? And these are things I teach on my website, by the way. I teach you how to improvise and use these scales properly so you don't fall into the trap that I fell into, which is just playing constantly, trying to memorize shapes, but not knowing how to use the shapes properly, right? All right, let's talk a little bit about breaking up our week with these practice sessions. How do you go about doing that? Let me put a scenario into your head for a second here. Imagine you want to play for 2 hours on the weekend, okay? So option one would be play for 2 hours on Saturday, get it out of the way, and then Sunday you don't have to do anything. Option two, you play 1 hour on Saturday, and then you do the other 1 hour on Sunday. All right, so which option do you think would be more beneficial? It would be option B, 1 hour on Saturday, 1 hour on Sunday. All right, now you've done 2 hours either way, right? So why would that option be better? The thing with practicing is your brain can only take in so much information. It can only improve so much in one day before it needs time to process that information, right? That's why it's good to have the breaks within the day, but also when you sleep, that is when your brain processes most information that you've taken in for the day, right? Everything you learn, your brain processes it at night time. So you're gonna get more benefits if you would do split up 2 days instead of fitting it all into one day, all right? And you can take any scenario like this. For example, maybe you wanna play 5 hours on Saturday, or an hour on Monday, an hour on Tuesday, an hour on Wednesday, an hour on Thursday, an hour on Friday, right? Trust me, if you split it up, you've got all those times where you're sleeping, guitar, sleep, guitar, sleep, guitar. You've done the same amount of practice, but your brain's processed everything better, so you're going to improve more, all right? Also, if you do everything on one day, then you're letting your brain have time to forget things. It kind of thinks, oh, I'm not doing that again, it's not important. All right, let me paint a second scenario for you here, okay? Now it's the same situation. We're going to play 2 hours on the weekend, but now we know that we're going to split 1 hour on Saturday, 1 hour on Sunday. We know this is the right thing to do. Okay, but let's go into more detail here. So option 1, Saturday, we play our chords for an hour. Okay, Sunday, we could play our scale shapes for an hour. All right, option 2, on Saturday, you can play 30 minutes of chords and 30 minutes of scales. And then Sunday, same thing, 30 minutes of chords, 30 minutes of scales. All right, which option do you think is better? So once again, option B would be the best thing to do, all right? Because you're getting more variety into one day before you sleep, right? And then you're doing it again the next day, and then you sleep again. So you're allowing more information to be processed per night. Now, don't take this to the extreme, all right? Because now you might be thinking, oh, so I should just spend 5 minutes a day on something, then 5 minutes a day on something else, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Just do little chunks. Maybe don't go too small with this, all right? 5 minutes is quite small. I mean, if you only have half an hour a day to practice, that could be the way to go. Like, really plan it out, plan out your session so that you can just do 5 minutes of something and then go straight into 5 minutes of something else. Personally, I found that it takes a bit of time to get the resources up, whether it's a metronome or some shapes, whatever you're doing. It takes time to change from one exercise to the other. But by the time you've kind of got used to it, you've got to change to the next one. So personally, I think 15 to 30 minutes is about right to spend on one thing and then move on, okay? It depends how much time you have per day. If you have 3 hours per day, then you can do 15, 30-minute sessions, no problem. If you only have half an hour a day to practice, then maybe do 3 10-minutes, or you could do two 10-minute sessions and 2 5-minute sessions, right? But have everything ready beforehand. If you've got shapes on a piece of paper, have them all ready. If you've got a metronome, have it ready, right? Have everything written down as well, what you're going to do for that half an hour. Write it all down, and then you can just blitz through it. So the general rule of thumb here is to practice little and often, okay? Not the opposite. You don't want to practice big and not often, right? Meaning 7 hours on a Saturday and then nothing else a week. That's not going to be, if you have to do that, then obviously do that. Some of you may be so busy and it's the only time you can play. All right, but I'm just saying, if you have the option, you would play 1 hour every day. Okay, 1 hour every day is better than 7 hours for one day, little and often. Okay, it's about getting as much as you can per day between those sleep cycles, between the processing time. Right. Now, I just want to add a little bonus note onto this video, because some of you might be asking or wondering, how much did I practice? How much did I play guitar when I was learning, trying to get up to scratch? And how long did it take me? All right. I would say it took me around maybe between 3 and 5 years of consistent practicing to get to a pretty advanced level. Okay, where I could play just about anything that was put in front of me. All right. Now, I probably averaged, if I averaged every day out, how much did I practice each day on average? I probably spent 2 to 3 hours. There would be some days where I played for 7 hours. There'd be some days where I didn't have time to play at all, obviously. But in general, I think I would try and do 2 to 3 hours. Okay, and I always did 15-minute groupings, pretty much. Sometimes half an hour. Once I realized what was important later on, I would spend longer on it, okay? But you need to bear in mind, the first few years of that, I had no direction, okay? Any guitar teacher I'd had was pretty bad, pretty awful. They were just getting me to learn songs, but they didn't explain anything to me. So I was just I just felt like I could play this cool rock song or whatever, but I didn't know anything about shapes. I didn't know how to play my own solos. I didn't understand how the solo worked. I didn't know what chords I was playing. And in my opinion, that's no way to learn, okay? Because you can't progress from that. It's like a little trick. It's like a circus trick. It's like you can play the guitar, but you don't really know what you're doing. Even when I was studying music at college, okay, I did that for 2 years, I didn't have any guidance on guitar. I was taught some music theory, and I was taught, you know, you should practice your scales, you should practice your chords, your arpeggios, but I didn't know how to practice them. Okay, I would just play them top to bottom. I wasted hours playing the same things because I had no one to direct me, right? As soon as I found a better teacher, I took it to the next level, and I found master guitarists that had completely just learned everything and anything on the guitar. When they were teaching me, it was so much easier, and then I probably got there in the next 2 years. Okay, it only took 2 years with the right guidance. So I say it took me 4 to 5 years. 4 to 5 years, by the way, not 45. But I think if you learn the right things in the right way, it's more like 2 to 3 years, okay? In the grand scheme of your life, what is 2 to 3 years, right? If you're 16 now, you'll be there when you're 19. If you're 30, you'll be there when you're 33. Even if you're 70 now, you could be amazing at the guitar by 73, right? It doesn't matter what age you are, you can get there if you practice the right things and you do it consistently, right? You try and find ways to enjoy it along the way as well. Don't do anything that bores you out of your mind.